Okay, so what I want to demonstrate to you guys is another way of having a useful alpha channel. And it's one of the things that I am going to be looking for in your project. Um, I have two images, and you can remember from the example that I gave, this cat is going to be showing that it is behind part of the cat is going to be behind the building. But the way that I get this is, of course, using layer masks and selections and safe selections is something that's, really helpful. It comes in handy as well when you're looking at an image. I'm going to hide this real quick. I know that I want this, to be my background image, but if I know that I'm going to put other things in there, but I want some of the buildings to be seen, it's going to be really great for me to go ahead and make the selection. And I don't have to make a selection and cut it out, but rather make the selection and save it for the purpose of masking and making my image non-destructible, so that in the event that I want something to be revealed later in the future, I can come back and see it, or change it. If I want to move something around, I can see it. I can change it from there versus deleting the pixels, or cutting it out and then having to go back and redo that selection. When you have a saved selection, you can alter that selection by loading the selection back in the output and the channels panel right up here, and you can make adjustments, from there. Okay. That's not necessarily something that we're going to focus on in this class, but that's just a tip, especially for those who are going to be taking Photoshop 2 next semester. That is something that we go over more in there, but wanting to give you guys a jump start as well, and some tips on that. But for this class, I want you to at least have the understanding of how to, not just how to create saved selections, but also how to use those saved selections on other layers and on those layer masks to be able to create the look that you're looking for without making your image destructible, in a sense, without having to delete the pixels. So I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. This skyline layer here is what I did earlier to show you guys the example of how I use multiple things, and how even though I asked for 8 different things, it's really not a lot, but at least 8 different things, and how quickly I could have gotten to that. So what I demonstrated to you, what I showed, the example that I gave you guys, was pretty much something that I threw together, real quickly. So don't focus on my selections and things like that, because I literally put that together like in 10 minutes. Okay, so that's pretty much just demonstrating being able to use those different things. And I wanted to show you guys how you go about naming, your layers and stuff like that for quick reference for me for the grading. Okay. So I'm not going to use this one here because I'm going to go ahead and recreate so that you guys can see that. But what I want to do first is I want to position the cat, because I do know that I want the cat to look like it's almost kind of laying on the skyline a little bit, but still having the skyscraper showing. So I'm going to lower my opacity temporarily so that I can see through to position where I want the cat. Okay, and I may or may not have to size, resize it, something like that, either making it, larger or smaller, just depending on how much, the cat that I want seen. It's your choice. Okay. But for this, this quick example, I'm just going to kind of do something like that. Let's see, what is this part here? Okay, yeah. And I'm going to leave it there. All right, I'm going to bring my opacity back up. but then I'm going to hide it for now because what I want to do is go to my skyline layer, okay? And I want to just go ahead and make a selection over the part of the skyline that I know that I'm probably going to more so want to um, um, cut out. All right, so I can use any one of the selection tools that I feel will work best for me. Typically, when we haven't really focused on this or anything like that very much, we will in um, Photoshop 2, and that is the pen tool, okay? Typically, what I'll do is I'll grab this pen tool and I will just click around, each point, and things like that, get really detailed and how I want to do that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and use my polygon lasso tool. And that is just going to be a little quick reference deal for me here. Now, another thing that I can do is, let's see, let me go ahead and get rid of that real quick and bring up my cat. Now, I know based on what it is that I'm wanting to do with this image, and that's why I say brainstorming first, sketching out what it is that you're wanting to do, and with the other images that you have, lowering the opacity and placing them where you want them will help you to know too what it is that you're going to want to cut out of the background, or not so much cut out, but select so that you can save your selection. And you can save as many selections as you want to. In the event that you say, you know what, I may want to, do something with the sky, or this building right here up front, well, not so much these, images, but in the images that you have and that you plan to use, you can create as many saved selections that you want. You can do that in the very beginning to go ahead and get those out of the way if you want. So it just depends on how you work, and you'll come to see those things as you go along. But for me and for this image, I know that what I select here on this part is not going to be that big of a deal for me, because most of the cat is, and what I'm wanting is this here. So most of my focus on my selection is going to be in this part of the skyline. The rest of it, I may just kind of go across, the deal, so I just save time. All right. What I can do is I can keep it lowered if the opacity lowered, and keep it visible so that I can kind of have an idea. If I think that it's, if it's too much or in the way or what have you, it's your preference. But I kind of know where it is, what I want to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and focus on making my selection. All right. I can go as detailed as I want. I can hit all of these little things if I want to, but I'm just going to focus on this here. And again, this is just totally rough. If I'm turning this in for a grade, then I'm zooming in, I'm getting detailed, because even if I'm not turning it in for a grade and yet I'm turning it in for a client, I'm not going to want certain things seen or what have you to make it look like it's not real. So I'm going to focus on making it look as real as I possibly can. This is just rough because I know the cat is not going to go up that high. And again, this is totally rough. This is not detailed in any way. So I do hope that you guys take more pride in what it is that you're doing versus what you see me doing for this example here. Okay. And again, this is really too much because I know my cat is not going to focus on, going to be on this part. So, all right, let's come around because it doesn't matter how far out I go. And there we go. I have my selection. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to come to my channel. Oops. All right. And I want to save selection as a channel, okay? And when I do that, it pops up right there, okay? I'm going to save it. Name it Skyline. I'll just put Skyline 2. All righty. I'm going to select RGB. I'm going to release my selection. I don't know if you remember, but the shortcut code is Control or Command D, depending on what platform you're using. I'm going to make visible my cat layer and bring the opacity back up. All right. Now, the other thing that I'm really going to want to do first is I don't want any of this background around the cat. Okay, so I'm going to first go ahead and select my layer, and put a mask on it. All right, I'm going to come with my brush tool, and I am just going to begin. Actually, I'm going to come. Oh, I need to first soften my brush. All right, and I'm just going to come around the cat. Now this is just. Oh, I'm not using my pen tablet. I'm using my mouse, so my hand is not as steady. Now, this selection that I'm making, trust me, you guys, this is completely rough. If I was making a selection that I am wanting to make it look good, then I am going to more than likely use a different tool. I'm going to bring it in my refined edge to kind of get, make it look more realistic with the fur. But for this purpose here, and just showing an example, I am just using a soft brush going around the edge. And then I'm not going to worry about the whiskers part because that's just too detailed for now. But that is totally possible to get using the refined edge, which we're going to focus a lot more on cutting images out from the background with hair in Photoshop 2, or Digital Imaging 2. So for those of you who will be taking that class, definitely look forward to that. I'm going to harden my brush so that the feathering doesn't get the parts that I don't want. And I can go ahead and just easily knock the rest of this background out. Again, this is just a shortcut to doing what it is that I need to do for you guys and showing this example. See, it's ugly. I know. I know it's ugly. But I've seen some of you guys' selections so far, and I can say that some of you guys are doing really good. Some of you guys just continue to practice, and that is totally normal at this point. But definitely know that selections are going nowhere. It's always going to be a part of Photoshop, especially if you're designing certain things in Photoshop. Like even if you're just doing retouching, you're still going to make selections. So selections aren't going anywhere. So embrace it. Just, learn to know which tool to use. That's why it's good that you learn and understand how to use all of them well, because certain tools work better for certain selections. Okay. So there is my rough selection, very rough selection of the cat. Okay. And as you see here, I have it pretty much positioned where I want it. I can kind of nudge it a little bit. I can bring them down just a little bit more. I can raise him up, probably about, kind of make it seem like he's kind of on this part right here a little bit, and his foot is a little bit on that building. I'm gonna scoot him over just a little bit, because I do want him to be seen, I do want the building to be seen and its paw to kind of come over the front just a little bit. Let's see. That is good. So I have masking on this and remove pixels from this mask already, hidden pixels from this mask, but I need to hide a little bit more. I need to hide the part of the building that I'm wanting to be seen. I need to unhide those pixels. So, actually, I'm sorry, correction. I need to hide the pixels on this layer so that I can see what's underneath it, okay? And which is I'm wanting to reveal this part of the skyline. So I'm going to come to this layer here on my channel panel, and I'm going to select this button here and load the selection. I'm going to select RGB again, and then I'm going to come here, and I can either hit the shortcut key tool to fill in this whole area. Oh, I'm sorry. To fill in this whole area with black, or I can take my brush and just paint in the area that I know for sure that I'm wanting revealed. So I'm going to use the brush tool because I want certain areas revealed. Like I don't want this part to go away. I just want this part to go away. So I'm going to take my brush tool and I'm going to soften it up. Doesn't have to be completely soft for me for this deal here, but I'm going to start painting, making sure that it's on black because black hides the pixels. And you see, I can paint all on this side, all like this on this layer, but the reason why it is not removing anything is because of my selection. I do not have any of these pixels selected, so I can't edit them. The only pixels that I'm able to select or erase are the ones that are within my selection, okay? So I'm wanting this part to be behind it. Everything else is fine. I want this part showing. This part is fine. All of this is fine. I'm mainly wanting this part right here gone. I even want to keep this part of his paw to make it seem like his paw and his arm is going on around the building. So that's how I'm able to get that look. And this is when I see that this here, it looks really it's hard to tell because it's really small, and that's why I have here that it's applied. Now what I'm going to do is, okay, and this is how I check to see if I see all of this. It's like, okay, well, I can't just visibly see that you use an alpha channel on here. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm checking your work, okay, I'm going to release this selection. It's like, oh, okay, I see that they did this part here. I see this masking. That's great. I'm going to first come and look to see if you have a selection that is saved that is similar to what this mask looks like, that's representing this. So on this deal here, I see that it's a skyline. So if I see that you have this saved, I'm going to then come and load. There we go. And select it. And if I see that it's been used, just like you see here, like, oh, okay, I can see that this thing was selected and it is perfect to what has been removed, what is being hidden. Okay. If you try to do it freehand, it's I can tell. You know, it'll be easy to tell if it's freehand. So make sure that you use it, okay? If you're going to create it, that's great. That gives you one deal of creating a channel and a save selection, but it also gives you the points of using that selection, okay? And that's a requirement, using the selection. Must use the selection, all right? The previous example that I gave you guys was an example of showing you how to use it on a like an adjustment layer, and changing, part of the color. So it's a saying if instead of the skyline, making a selection of the skyline, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and load this selection, select RGB, but I want to change most of the color of the sky and everything like that, and kind of like with this, that color is kind of blending in all of this area that's not selected for the most part. I want to first inverse my selection. I'm going to select, inverse, and I'm going to then make create an adjustment layer on it. Oh, you guys can't see it. All right, let's just go to hue and saturation. It's fine. And I just want to kind of adjust the color on it, but I only want to adjust part of it. Just want to change it. That right there is an obvious use of an alpha channel, okay? This is an obvious use. It is on a different layer, okay? I made a selection of this from this layer, and I used it on a different layer. I actually used it on 2 different layers, okay? And just because I made this selection of this whole piece doesn't mean, like I use here, that I had to use all of it, to remove all those pixels from that selection. I only removed what it is that I wanted to remove and got the look that I wanted to. But it is still considered a useful alpha channel, okay? So yeah, that's that. And if you have any questions on this, please reach out to me and let me know. I do not have a problem in helping you guys to understand that, okay?